Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about ways that you can use the film Brave New Clan in visual arts to teach students about diverse Indigenous artists and help students find connection with them. So through our responsibilities to ACARA's cross-curriculum priority and AITSL Standard 2.4, we know the importance of embedding Indigenous histories, cultures and knowledges in the classroom, and including Indigenous perspectives can help us to promote a learning environment that's inclusive and respectful to all students. People like Marsha Langton and Amanda Fritzlin argue that getting students to personally connect with Indigenous cultures and reflect on these is a good way to teach authentic cultural awareness and understanding. This also links to the key learning area in visual arts of exploring and reflecting on the connection between students' own artworks and artworks from different contexts, including Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artworks. Now, Jens Korf tells us that unfortunately stereotypes about Indigenous art only being dot paintings or things that we think of as traditionally rural representations of Indigenous culture can still be very common. So we want to counter this by teaching students to understand diversity within Indigenous art, and that way they can find different areas to connect to. Now, I'm a teacher in an urban area, so I focused on Brave New Clan as it represents urban Indigenous Australians and reflects on a lot of the same issues and challenges that my students are facing. It depicts the stories of 6 people from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander backgrounds that have very different stories and very different connections to culture and country. It's important for students to understand this diversity so that when they're analysing Indigenous art, they don't approach all Indigenous artists as the same or assume stereotypes or generalisations. So you can focus on different stories within the film based on which protagonist you think that your students are going to find lots of connections with. So I've chosen to focus on the story of James Saunders. He's a young gay Indigenous man who moves away from his home and his family to Sydney in order to start his own career. I think my students can find a lot of connections with him as he talks about the struggle of resisting the party life, finding his own identity as a gay man, particularly in relation to sport, as well as talking about wanting to forge his own path. So from Saunders' story, students can go on to look at artists like Michael Riley and z5146565. They explore maintaining a connection to country and culture whilst living in an urban environment. Students could also research Ellen Jose. She depicts struggles between balancing different aspects of life, such as work, family, friends, and politics. They could also look at LGBT Indigenous artists, such as Destiny Deacon or Carla Dickens or Clinton Nain, as well as finding out about sister girls and brother boys. So not only are we using the film as a stimulus to counteract stereotypical ideas of Indigenous art and culture, but we're also helping students to develop deep and layered understandings of Indigenous culture and seeing how different cultures overlap. They can understand the links between cultural identity and personal identity and experience. Now, we do need to be mindful of language choice here. For example, the word new in the title of the film, and if you use words like traditional to describe Indigenous art or art that we sort of see produced in rural areas, that is stereotypical Indigenous artwork, we can leave students walking away thinking that these representations are old. So they might also walk away thinking that, for example, Indigenous Australians don't live on country anymore, or you could actually perpetuate ideas of the primitive. So we need to be mindful to stress that there's no right or wrong or old or new way to be Indigenous. Rather, like all cultures, there is diversity in Indigenous cultures, and we can acknowledge and understand that without inferring hierarchies. Now, the film ends in a really beautiful way that I think can be used to sum up this learning area and the overall outcomes and the overall aims of AITSL 2.4 and the cross-curriculum priority. So it concludes by emphasising individuality and difference, whilst also reminding us of the idea of the collective. Whilst all these stories are different, they share similar aspects, and students can learn that no matter how different they are, they can find connection to anyone and be united in diversity. Thank you.